Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the vlog. I'm in Glenlyon today, heading towards the old stone bridge, Packhorse Bridge, which I've been trying to get to for a little while. If you watched the vlog a couple of episodes ago, I was heading this way but got caught up in some beautiful scenery and never actually made it. So if you're interested in watching that vlog, I'll leave a link in the description below. But anyway, gonna follow on down along the River Lyon, get down to the bridge and set up the camera. Let's see what we can find. So I've made it to the bridge and I thought this would be a good opportunity. I've just got my D850 back from the Nikon repair centre, and if you've been following the vlogs, you know I haven't had it for quite a while now. It's been a couple of months. I think it gets shipped out somewhere, it gets repaired and then comes back. But I thought it would be a great opportunity to compare the Z7 II with the D850. I've been using the Z7 now for a few months, so I thought this would be a great time to sort of discuss the ergonomics of the cameras, how they compare, how they feel, how I've got on using the Z7 II. So let's start with the Nikon D850. I've had this camera for a couple of years and this is a solid built camera, robust and great to take out. It's got a real professional feel to it, a nice deep hand grip that really gives you a good secure hold. Buttons and dials are well placed so that you can really get at everything while you're out using this camera. And it's the sort of camera that you can just take out all day, no problems, and it feels like it can withstand the elements while you're outdoors, making the most of the weather. Now the D850 really does have an intuitive button layout. Everything is really easily accessible. You don't have to delve into the menus. A lot of the controls are actually just on top of the camera and can be changed really quickly. From shutter control to white balance to ISO, everything is really easily placed. You can get to it nice and quickly. So let's compare that to the Z7. The Z7 is a much smaller, lighter, compact camera, which makes it ideal for street photography and for travel photography. But it really doesn't compromise on performance. This is still an incredibly good camera. Now the Z7 again still has that good solid grip feel to it, and the buttons and dials are still in a good intuitive place to use nice and quickly. But what I would say is that if you've got larger hands, some of the buttons and some of the dials are not quite so easy to access. There's a couple of function buttons on the front here which you can custom program, and I find those a little bit tricky to access quickly. And the command dial on the back just comes in line with the grip and the way it curves out, and I find that again just a little bit more difficult. I think if you had smaller hands it wouldn't be quite so tricky to use. The electric viewfinder really does help in tricky lighting conditions, and also being able to view all of the information through that viewfinder. I've managed to find somewhere out of the sun, which is really unusual for Scotland. We've not had the best of weather this summer. Anyway, back to the cameras. Now, both of these cameras have great ergonomics, but they definitely are targeted at different photographers. The D850 is more targeted towards what I would call the traditionalist photographer. It's a solid built camera, feels incredibly professional, great for all weathers. Whereas the Z7, I would say, is definitely targeted for people that want to be out traveling, lightweight camera, that want to use the latest modern technology. With the electronic viewfinder, it really does make things seem like we've stepped up into a new era of cameras, especially with that beautiful clear screen. talk about the specs on these cameras. The D850 has a 45.7 megapixel sensor and can shoot 7 frames a second on continuous. And with the added grip, it will go up to 9 frames a second, which isn't bad for a camera of its age. And the battery life on this is incredible. Maybe partly because it doesn't have the electronic viewfinder, but you can take this out all day and shoot on one battery. Now the image quality on the D850 really is exceptional, and the colour reproduction is just spot on. There's very little noise, even in high ISO settings, and it really is a great camera for a landscape photographer. Now the Z7 II also has a 45.7 megapixel sensor, but it has the new 6x-speed dual processor, which means performance is that much better. Processing the images is faster, autofocus is faster, and photographing in low light conditions really is improved. And if you like videoing as well, then it's able to record at 4K 60 frames a second. This really is a versatile camera. I've always wanted to get a really nice panoramic shot of this bridge. I've passed it a few times. The road's up behind the River Lyon there. And although I think that actually this location would be better suited for autumn, when all of those beautiful trees are really sort of splattered with autumnal colour, I do actually like this time of the year. There's actually some nice grasses and wild flowers that are growing along the top of the bridge there. And that detail in the stonework is absolutely stunning. If you get low enough, you can see the falls behind. Not too much from the top, but it really does give you a nice point of interest and a good focal point. Now, just in front of me here, we've got some falls that come down from the rocks. So that really adds a nice little bit of foreground detail. So my plan is to shoot on a 24-70 lens, take about 4 shots, starting from the left, working my way round to the right, making sure I get this nice falls in front of me with the backdrop behind. I don't think I'm going to have to focus stack this one because there's not a lot of distance between myself, the rocks and the bridge, and I'm really not too worried if the falls behind are a little bit soft and out of focus. I think that will be quite nice. But I love the texture of that bridge. And underneath it, we've got these sort of ferns that are coming out through under the rocks. It really is a stunning scene. And then we've got the falls behind it. There's a big sort of tree that's come down over the top there. That's not going to be in my image. And the falls tends to sort of get a bit pencil thin as it gets further to the top. So I'm going to shoot on around about half a second, and as I say, I'm going to do 4 shots, stitch them together when I get back in Photoshop, and well, it really should make a beautiful image. As I said, this time of the year you get the wild flowers, you get the splashes of green, and I'm definitely looking forward to coming back in autumn, but it'd be nice to compare the 2 images. Anyway, enough of my rambling. I'm going to get on, take the photo, and here's the image. So I've come down to the sort of higher up part of the falls. I was just behind the bridge there earlier, and I'm just trying to position the camera to see if I can get a photograph. There's a wee little bit of a falls just here coming down between the two rocks, and then we've got the waterfall behind. Now this is one of these waterfalls that is, it's not a picturesque waterfall, if you like. You know, it's very long and thin, so it plays a very small part in the image when you're taking a photograph of it. So what I'm trying to do is include these falls at the front here. But again, I still can't really, just because of the way those two rocks cross over, I can't position myself further along because then that small falls disappears. So whatever image I'm going to take, those falls at the back are always going to be a long strip of water coming down. But I do like the rocks that are just to the left-hand side there. They've got a real nice sheen to them where the water's hitting them, and there's some really nice sort of brown, reflected brown, coppery colours, which are really nice. But anyway, I think the best thing to do in this situation is really just to take a couple of shots, have a look at them, and just change position as much as I can, obviously, with the water here, and just see if I can get a good composition. I do like the sort of green trees that are coming out on the right there, and as I say, those nice light brown coloured rocks. It's beautiful. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an incredible scene, just not so easy to photograph. Anyway, I'm going to change a few positions. I'm still shooting on my 24 to 70mm lens, ISO 64, and I want to aim for around about sort of maybe half a second, I think, on the exposure frame, really just to soften the water. I think in this instance, it'd be quite nice to have a really sort of soft water flow at the back there. But anyway, as I say, I'll play about, and well, out of all of the images that I take, this would be my favourite. Now I've come right round to the right-hand side of the waterfall now. What I'm going to do is use some of this greenery to help fill my image so that the waterfall isn't quite so lost. So I've positioned myself so that the trees themselves don't overlap the waterfall, but they come right to the edge of it. And with this nice sort of splash of brown rock by the side of it that's sort of reflecting a bit of light, it really makes a nice image. I've got a couple of rocks right in my foreground interest which really help, but I think it'll help balance a nice portrait shot. So anyway, if that's any good, here's the shot. Now, a bit of a spoiler alert, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the D850 is a better camera than the Z7 II. The technology is miles apart, and there's a reason why technology advances, and cameras have definitely come a long way. The D850 was introduced in 2017. The Z7 II was introduced in 2020, I believe. and there's definitely been some huge improvements. But photography isn't always just about that end result. It's also about enjoying using the equipment when you're out photographing. And I think that experience is just as important. So what are the negatives of the Z7 II? Well, this is just personally for me. It doesn't feel like a pro camera, despite the price. I mean, it's not a cheap camera, but the dials and some of the switches do feel very plasticky and not such a solid build as the D850. Also battery life, because you've got the digital EV and you've got more processing power, it eats through the batteries a lot quicker than the D850 does. So what are the positives of the Z7 II? Well, first of all, this is a lighter camera. Now, I've been using my F-mount lenses on this camera thanks to the FTZ2 adapter, which came with the camera itself. Now, if you've watched my vlogs, you know I borrowed the Z8 a while back, and I've got to say, those Z lenses are absolutely incredible. Because of the size of the diameter of those lenses, they're able to make certainly wider angle lenses much smaller, lighter, and they are definitely sharper lenses. So when you're combining the Z system with the Z lenses, you really are seeing some huge improvements on image quality. So let's round this up. Would I upgrade from the D850 to the Z7 II? No, personally, I wouldn't. They're very different cameras. As I said, the D850, solid beast and has a real professional feel to it. I like the way that I can quickly access the dials and functions. I find it really easy to use, and the image quality is still exceptional. Now, if I was in the market for a D850 or a Z7 II, would I go for the Z7 II? I think you'd have to try it yourself. As I said, this is a different sort of camera. It's lightweight, it's easier to take out with you when you're out on the hills, but I think you should try it first. Definitely, without a doubt, the technology in this camera is exceptional. Image quality is exceptional, and combined with those Z-mount lenses, you can't beat the quality. So this is a fantastic camera. And if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for carrying this around with you, and you're looking for that light, compact style camera, this is excellent. But if you're a little bit more like me, a bit more of a traditionalist photographer, I still don't think you can beat the handling and feel of the D850. I should probably just finally say a huge thank you to Nikon for the lend of the Z7 II while my D850 was being repaired. It's been a great help. Thank you, Nikon.